Hey, good afternoon, good evening, wherever it is you are. Welcome, everybody, to Pop Go the Writers. I don't have Paul here for it, but that's still a better pop than Paul's ever pulled off. If you're wondering where Mr. Story is, he is currently spending the weekend hanging out at the Cincinnati Comic-Con. So for some reason, they actually let him in. The restraining orders don't seem to pertain in that area, so he's having a good time there with a lot of other folks I know. Matt Hawkins is out there, a good friend of mine, and America's Tom Zoller, who's been a guest on our show. So I hope you guys made it out to the Cincinnati Comic-Con, said hi to all our friends. And but filling in for him admirably is our friend Andrew Gaughen. How you doing, sir?
Doing well, thanks, Dan. I'm just seat warming for the week.
Now, for you guys who don't know, Andrew writes under the name of Randy at AF Action Figure Times. AF Times. So he is our resident expert at toys, and I call on him for his knowledge quite often. So, but Andrew is filling in tonight, and part of what Andrew wants to do is a rebuttal to something I talked about last week. It seems Andrew, unlike myself, liked Malignant.
I have to correct you. I loved Malignant.
Please tell us why you love Malignant.
I can understand completely also why others didn't, because it's a very extreme type of thing. Again, I like horror films. I don't have a very deep knowledge of Italian horror films, and I don't think Malignant is just that one note, because I've seen the giallo idea brought onto it a lot. I just think it was a mashup of a lot of different horror elements to kind of make something weird and unique and bizarre. And what's funny is even at the beginning, from right as they went on, it's like, okay, they're going for a stylized approach. I mean, except for a couple shots of cell phones and a couple cars, this looked like it was made in the 80s.
True. That is true. It did look like it was made in the 80s. I've got a lot of little nitpicks about it, like the fact that they very clearly give her this old car in the very beginning.
Yeah.
And then we never see the car again.
Yeah. No, apparently the car just went away.
Yes.
That was it. It was the husband's fault. It must have gotten taken back from the bank.
Yeah. And also from the point after the husband's killed, there really isn't anything scary at that point after that. It's no longer a scary movie. It becomes kind of silly to me. You know, I mean, we see the guy clearly. There's no jump scares. There's no psychological moments. There's nothing like that. It becomes more of a bad guy movie. You know, it becomes more of somebody referred to it as an action thriller.
Okay.
And I can kind of see that. But
yeah, I can see that too. I think it's a mix-up of a bunch of different elements to try and make something unique. I mean, I appreciate the fact that James Wan, coming off of a how many $100 million blockbuster, it's like, my next film's going to be this bizarre, nutso horror film that I don't think any studio would normally have greenlit.
Yeah,
but they kind of let it go.
I'm going to put this up because my next thing is my favorite part of the movie is the chase when the cop is going after him. They go into the Seattle.
Oh, yeah. It's outrageous.
But some things that happen in it. One is he is constantly going deeper and deeper with no backup.
Yep.
There's a moment where a buggy comes rolling out at him. He dives out of the way. Then he looks inside the buggy. Like he's looking for the driver? Why would there be anybody in the buggy?
Just to be safe?
But through it, the creature that he's chasing, Gilbert, is it Gilbert?
Yep. Yes.
Gilbert
or
moves. Gabriel. Gabriel moves so amazingly. The way, And then when you find out what it really is, it's like, no.
I think that's the point at which, by the point you get to the revelation of how Gabriel is able to do what Gabriel does, you're either in or you're out on this movie. Like,
well, okay,
at least in my mind.
I knew from the opening scene that we were getting a conjoined twin type story.
Which is funny because there are so many people that I've read online who had no idea that was their what the fuck moment. Hopefully I can use which is funny. The film, and for me the WTF moment was crashing through the woman crashing through the ceiling.
That was hilarious.
Into Madison's thing. That was the point. I'm like, wait, did we just break the fourth wall in the movie? Did we go from one movie? Because I was like, wait, what? And I again, maybe I just, because of so many movies I see, I love having that feeling of what the hell is going on, because it's so unique.
Oh, see, I pieced it together early.
Well, about her, about the identity of the woman who was captured.
Yes.
Okay.
Because it was the only character missing.
The weird thing for me on that was I just kept going, did I miss a character? Because suddenly we went to this tour, the tour guide, and I'm like, am I supposed to remember who this is? And I'm like, all right, maybe it's just me, and I'll just kind of go with it.
Well, my first thought was it was the woman, because they looked the same. And then when I went, oh, it's not her, wait a minute. She looks like an older version of the main. Okay, it's probably her mother, because then when they spent no time setting up who this character was supposed to be.
Yep.
And again, it might just be the writer in me. I'm like, well, then it's got to be a reveal, you know?
It is one of those weird things where you're not wrong. And probably any other film another film I would say, that kind of setup should have been there. I like the ride. For whatever reason, I went again. You can absolutely tear this down with other logic issues. The build up for that, but the build up on Gabriel and their whole how things went through the movie, they actually were fairly consistent with. Like Gabriel didn't violate his own rules, and plus, I'm sorry, I don't know which is better, the massacre in the jail cell or just backwards parkour in the police station that reminded me of the Terminator. I just by that point I'm like, I'm all in on this movie.
But they never tell us physically how they could do any of this. First thing, how do you move backwards like that? But where did the strength come from? Where did the ability to leap up into a hole in the ceiling?
She's wiry. No.
Was that a Replacements reference?
Yes, and that was for Cricky. But yeah, no, I can, again, it's you're not wrong. But it's the type of movie. To me, it's the type of movie going into it. You're either with it or you're not.
I'll give you that.
And I'm not blaming anyone who wasn't in for it. Like, to me, the example of it is like way back when I saw the movie Commando. It's a certain type of action movie. Until the point Arnold jumps out of a moving 747 and crashes into the swamp, gets up and starts running. I'm like, oh, chunk. I know what this movie is. And I'm with it. You know, logic is not really its strength at that point. And this is the same type of thing. There are just certain times where you're like, okay, I locked into this movie. And there are plenty of movies that other people have seen that I'm like, I wish I saw the movie you did because I didn't like it or I didn't lock into it. So it is. Well, I haven't found anyone middle of the road. Like, so the fact that you didn't like it, I understand completely.
Yeah, I agree. I think everybody is either they love it or they hate it. And I'd say the love it is a smaller number than the hate it.
They're just louder.
Yeah. But a lot of critics like this. And I think they went in expecting the Gallo or the Dario Argento style film. So they had that understanding. I walked in fresh. I didn't want to see this movie. I'm not a horror guy. Okay. I went because Lisa's daughter Scotland that was her choice for her birthday. Mm-hmm. Mind you, her son, whose birthday was this weekend, wanted to go see Shang-Chi, which I was happy to go see a second time.
I bet.
But Scotland loved the movie. Mm-hmm. Lisa was with me. And all Lisa kept saying is, okay, if you're going to cut out most of the conjoined twin and push him back into her skull, why do you leave the eye and the teeth?
It was too connected to the brain, and it would have done more damage to her.
The teeth?
I didn't say it was a good explanation. Yeah, you're not wrong.
Okay.
Again, you're not right. Listen, I can understand that. I can completely understand it. But to me, it's the step back of like, you pushed the body back into okay, and besides that, so it pops out by breaking her skull and pushing itself out, and she's not dead.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you didn't figure that out early on, then you have to assume that this nurse, because she was a nurse in the beginning, and she never went back to work, was okay with the fact that she kept waking up on bloody pillows.
Yeah, it's apparently just the usual thing for her.
Yeah, and Lisa's like, did she never clean that up? It's like, no, it's a new one.
She just changed. And I'm sorry, you know why? Gabriel controlled her and changed the sheets.
Okay, I think we've given we've given enough time to this rebuttal.
I mean, I'll just end it with this from my side. I had no plans on really seeing it because I just saw the trailers and was like, okay, it looks okay. And I honestly, from the poster, I'm like, oh, that kind of looks like a yellow kind of look to it. It was the reactions of people that I follow on Twitter for that weekend who all were just going, this movie is bonkers. And that was the word that kept coming up over and over, was bonkers. And I'm like, well, I got to go see a bonkers movie just to decide if it's bonkers. And it's
bonkers. Yeah, I'll give you it's bonkers.
Yep,
it's not good.
It's not a bad movie.
Yes, it is.
It's not a bad movie.
The dialogue is horrible.
Again, it's the stylized right from the beginning. It's not like it just came out of nowhere. They were doing it from the beginning.
I know, but they were trying to mimic a style that's that way because of the translation from Italian to English.
And
they wrote it that way.
Yes, they did. Because here's the thing for me. It's not one actor. It is consistent through all the actors are doing it that way. So that stops it from being like it was an accident or I've heard the word camp. I'm like, they weren't campy. It was a stylistic choice right from the start.
It was more soap opera.
Oh, absolutely. Down to that line of, what's your name? Jill, I'm adopted.
Yes.
And I think they even had the music sting.
Yes, they did. And the panning on her face was like, oh God. That, and when she went to the clinic that had been, or the asylum that was closed, and she parked by the edge of a cliff. It's like, are you telling me this giant building doesn't have a parking lot?
Nope.
Why are you parking on the edge of a cliff?
The one weird thing for me in the back of my head was, and I realized there shouldn't be any connection, but I kept looking at the old clinic building going, is this somehow connected to the remake of House on Haunted Hill? Because it really looked like that asylum from that movie. Yeah.
Okay. Again, we've now given this 15 minutes.
Far more than you wanted to give it, Dan.
Yeah, it wasn't even on the list for tonight. Let's see. We got 3 topics to talk about tonight. What if the Killmonger episode? I got some stuff I want to run by you about Shang-Chi and Hawkeye. Where do you want to begin?
Let's go with What If.
All right. What did you think about the latest episode of What If?
I liked it. I liked the kind of direction that they decided to go with his character, and though I'm surprised at how much they didn't allude to down the line. I think they kind of decided to stay with a certain era of the character, because obviously by changing up Tony and Iron Man that early, it's like, yeah, there's a gigantic ripple effect on that they're like, they're not going to tell that story.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because it does fall along the lines of, it was definitely Eric's character that's established from the Black Panther. He's like, this is just a different direction with it. I also enjoyed it. I thought it was a little more of an improvement. As much as I was looking forward to the zombie episode, that was the weakest episode I've seen of this series so far. And I was very saddened by that. So I was very happy to see this. This felt like a lot stronger.
Yeah. Yeah. Hang on one sec. Hey, Brian, let's see. Brian asks, did you see the Venom TV spot? I have to admit, I have not. Have you seen it yet?
I have not seen anything besides the current trailer, though I believe a second trailer just dropped today.
Oh, I haven't even seen that. I just got home a little while ago. I saw the trailer, the regular trailer before the movie last night.
Yep.
So, and I'm looking forward to it. And the word I've been hearing about Venom is that it's only about 90 minutes long.
Wow. And
that it's all thriller, no filler. That it is a good 90 minutes. The word I'm getting from, there was a screening in London for a fan screening, and everybody is buzzing about this movie, including an end credit scene that is supposed to have made really earth-shaking for the universe.
Damn it. I was going to wait till the week after it was released to go watch it. You're going to make me go see like the Thursday night showing now, aren't you?
It's again, everybody I'm hearing is that it's a good movie. Mm-hmm. And that Woody Harrelson nails it, but there's an end credit scene, and what Brian says here, the universe is expanding, is exactly what they're talking about. That by the end of it, between this and Spider-Man No Way Home, it looks like Venom's going to be in the MCU or connected at least somehow.
Yeah.
Well. So, all right. We're gonna stick with the what if for now, Brian. But if you want to bring that up a little later, we can try to talk a little bit more about Venom.
Yep.
We just got a lot to cover on the show tonight, and we didn't plan on doing 15 minutes on Malignant.
my bad. Mea culpa.
No. It was a good 15 minutes. This was not my favorite episode so far. My favorite is still the murder mystery episode. With the Avengers, that to me, that's just the most fun one I had. But then I love mysteries. Yeah. The zombie one, I love the characterization, but I'm not a zombie guy, so it didn't do much for me.
It was the most fragmented of all the ones I've seen.
Yeah, where the T'Challa Star-Lord one was fun, but it didn't feel like it really told us a story. It was more, this is how great the world would be if T'Challa had been taken.
And what's funny is now retroactively, having that last performance by Chadwick Boseman just made it that much like, oh, that's nice.
I thought the scene with Ramonda, I think it's her name, his mother, yelling out for T'Challa during the fight was brilliant, was just great. And I'm sure that was done well before Chadwick passed away.
Yeah. Which this actually brings me to a secondary. It's a very small question based off of that. So there's the one reference to Ramonda. Is there? I'm sorry,
I believe it is
Ramonda as Ramonda General, Queen General.
Yes. Right.
Is that a title she had? Like I've never, at least I can't remember that being brought up prior. Is that something that is part of her character?
Yes, from what I understand, and the way the hierarchy works. Is the Dora Milaje are not just bodyguards for the Black Panther, or for the King, but also potential brides. Most of the queens come out of the Dora Milaje. So it would make perfect sense for Ramonda to have been the general of the Dora Milaje, Okoyo's role now, and become queen for T'Chaka to marry her.
That's always been in my head, and honestly, I know I'm going way around the corner on this. It's something I really wish I had seen show up in Endgame.
Yeah.
I really wanted one shot, because I'm like, you have Angela Bassett playing the Queen. You know that she was Dora Milaje. She had to have been.
Oh, yeah. It would have been nice to see her get, or in Black Panther would have been nice. Maybe we'll get something in Wakanda Forever.
I hope so.
Me too.
But continuing on.
Yes. I didn't love this episode, not because it wasn't good, but it just felt like they were redoing the Marvel Universe only slightly different. Everything else seemed to kind of, okay, so we never got Iron Man. But we still got, the scenes from, it's like they just did all the other scenes from the movies. And I don't know. It didn't seem like it changed many of the characters. It kept Tony from having a redemption arc, sort of. I mean, he still kind of got one at the end when Rhodey was killed. But we just ended up with more dead heroes. And Killmonger was still the jerk he was in the movie. And I realized that he was a jerk with really good motivations.
Yeah.
And but it was just a slightly different plan.
Well, I think that's the interesting thing I've had discussing with the entire What If series with other people who have had issues with other episodes, where it's that a lot of times it comes up, it feels like it was very done very quickly and done this. And I'm like, I go back to the issues of What If, and there were plenty of issues that were like, they would do the one change, and the things that would normally have happened in the universe still do in some of them. And I think that's just the nature of the What If stories, is sometimes you get that where whoever was writing it or however they want to tell the story, they wanted to change certain elements, but they kind of felt compelled to keep on with the regular timeline. Whereas obviously something like a Marvel, the Marvel Zombies ones, you can kind of completely fly off in a different direction.
Yeah. I'm going to get a chance to ask somebody who used to write and draw the What If episodes of the comics. On Tuesday, I am interviewing Jim Valentino.
Oh, excellent.
Yes. So I'm going to be able to ask him about that and a bunch of other stuff. So that's going to be Tuesday on the Dan Wickline show. I'm actually going to interview him tomorrow, and we're going to record it because of time constraints and stuff. But yeah, so that should be interesting, because I've been wondering about that too. And I've got a stack of the old What If books just behind me here that I found in storage. I had them, and then suddenly What If was introduced. I'm like, I'm going to hang on to these and read them. But,
now, if we can just somehow get them to do the what if the symbiote suit went onto the Punisher, and then bring John Barenthal in for the voice, and then watch everyone's brain implode.
That would be cool. That would be excellent, actually. But my problem with it is that it just... My favorite one, again, is the murder mystery, and that's because the what if Hope had joined S.H.I.E.L.D. instead of working with Pym? And all the dominoes was completely different.
Yeah. Honestly, that's a timeline that would have been nice to have seen as well.
Yeah.
Just what happened with Hope herself following her character.
Yeah, and there's a good chance, if you follow some of the clues they give you, that it was actually the Winter Soldier that killed her.
Really?
Yeah, because there was, I think it was, Widow said something about in Winter Soldier that she ran into the Winter Soldier in Romania trying to protect a S.H.I.E.L.D. asset.
Yes.
And she got shot.
Yep.
And that's exactly where Hope got killed.
Oh.
And time-wise, it would match up. So my thought is they were trying to hint that the Winter Soldier is the one that killed her.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Plus, I love the idea. I mean, I'm a big Yellow Jacket fan, and in the comics, he just went crazy, and so it was kind of neat to see that.
Yeah.
And to have Michael Douglas come back to play the part was so awesome.
Absolutely. And to play off the element that they brought up in the first movie and kind of seem to have ignored in the second of that idea of you do the shrinking too much and it messes with your brain.
Yes.
So that really played off nicely. And I wouldn't surprise if Douglas also was like, so I get to play Hank Pym a little crazy? Okay, sure, sign me up.
I do find it fascinating which actors are coming back and which ones aren't. It's like, and I think it might also be how big of the role is. It's like Jeff Daniels coming back for Obadiah Stane.
Mm-hmm.
This is the only time we've seen him.
Jeff Bridges.
Jeff Bridges. I'm sorry. What did I say?
Not that. Sorry, Jeff. It was another Jeff with a B. Sorry.
All right. So Jeff Bridges coming back. Mm-hmm. So it would be kind of weird because it is such a small role, and there's a good chance he doesn't show up anywhere else. Mm-hmm. Where you get a character like Okoye, Diana Guerrera comes back and she's voicing it, but it's like one line in the T'Challa Star-Lord one, but she's in there because there's a bunch of other stuff going on.
But the interesting thing is, I think that's what's happening with a lot of them. Because someone else brought up, they're like, yeah, why would you bring it in for only one thing? And I'm like, well, she's also in the Marvel Zombies episode. They probably brought them in with like, okay, here's the recordings for all the episodes you're going to be in.
Yeah.
To just make it that much easier.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure they did all of them in one day.
Yeah.
You know, or one or two settings, depending on how big they are. But yeah, I think they're doing a really good job finding people whose voices are so damn close.
Yeah,
that you actually have to look it up. You know,
I admit every time I watch the episode, when the credit pops up for voices, I pause to take a look and see who actually was the voice and who was replaced.
Yeah, and I can't say that I didn't like the episode with Killmonger. It just felt like there wasn't really that big a difference. Mm-hmm. It's like we got to the same place with, you know, okay, so T'Chaka lived. You know, he never went to the UN and got blown up, or the meeting got blown up. But Rhodey's dead. Stark's dead. How many times do we have to see Tony Stark die?
Well, as such a prime mover and shaker of the MCU, especially, you're the main ones you're going to go with is you're going to take how do you take out Cap? How do you take out Iron Man? How do you take out Thor? Mm-hmm. Those are the three that obviously have the fastest and deepest impact. Yeah, which is amazing since we haven't done anything with Thor. Well, I'm sorry, except we've done the one Thor one, which is the murder mystery one.
In the comics, what type of events cause the Watcher to get involved? That is rare.
Yeah,
I believe there was something to do with Galactus that he got involved.
That sounds correct.
And then there was the time somebody murdered him. So the Watcher getting involved is super rare.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, but you'll notice as the series progresses, the Watcher comes into clearer and clearer focus. Where in the first episode, he's just this little silhouette in the background you can barely see. You're going to miss if you don't look for him.
That was an actual weird little thing I noticed. I'm like, his mouth moved.
Yeah.
Which I'm like, I don't think I've ever seen his mouth move in any of the prior episodes. I don't necessarily know if they're going for something with that. I know I'm late because obviously I haven't been on this, but the fact that Stephen Strange went through so many iterations in his episode that he actually could talk to Uatu,
yeah,
kind of baked my noodle a little bit.
Yep. No, he's getting more and more involved as the series goes. Mm-hmm. So whatever the finale is, that's going to bring all these characters together, and that's kind of what the mid-season teaser they did kind of gives us that. And we saw that with the poster they put out, the Guardians of the Multiverse, and that certain characters are going to get pulled together. But yeah, I'm curious, and I guess that's what the other thing about the Killmonger episode is. It got, he's in that poster, mm-hmm. which makes you think he's a good guy. And I thought, okay, well, maybe this is nature versus nurture, and we're going to see him get an opportunity that he didn't get in the other one, and we're going to see a different type of Killmonger. And no, it was the exact same Killmonger, mm-hmm. just with a more in-depth plan.
But yeah, and it was still pretty much the same plan he had prior.
Yeah. Just using Stark money and technology, mm-hmm. and bringing in Ross. And boy, do they like to bring in Ross.
Well, he's an easy foil.
But for a movie that people tend to forget or try to overlook, they're pulling a lot from there between him and now Blonsky.
Oh, yeah, I was talking about that with some friends the other day, and it's like, because they were complaining on the movie. I'm like, it's not a bad movie. It's comparative to comparative to the rest of the MCU, it's not even close. It's the lower tier, but I'm like, there's a lot of elements of that, and it's obvious that they are continually bringing them back into play.
Yeah,
it is becoming an important part.
Yeah, it's not a bad movie. I actually like the movie.
Yeah,
I think it's got some good horror elements. There's some good Easter eggs, and overall, it's not badly acted or anything. I actually enjoy the movie, and I think it's not the higher end. It's down there with Thor: The Dark World, and some, it's not. But I will still take any Marvel movie over a lot of other movies that are out there.
I can't fight you on that. It's funny because I know other people who have reactions that they're getting burnt out on the Marvel movies and the responses off of it. And I'm like, I understand that, but they have given me consistent good movies as they've gone along.
I'm starting to think that I have noticed over the years that people like to see failure and redemption.
Yep.
They like to see the little guys succeed, then they want to bring them down, and then they want them to come back.
Yep.
And I think Marvel's at the stage where everybody wants them to fail, or a lot of people want them to fail, because I'm going to use Lisa again. We saw Shang-Chi yesterday. This was not a movie she was eager to go see. Mm-hmm. I told her stuff like, there's a dragon in it, and she loves dragons, and she's like, it just doesn't look good to me. But her son picked that movie as his birthday movie. Yep. So we all went. Walking out of the theater, she said that is now her favorite MCU movie.
Wow. I bet that's exactly what Kevin Feige wants to hear, because that's the next generation that even after 10 years and 20 plus movies, you just got another fan coming in. Yeah. Or at least bringing them up to a higher thing. They're like, oh, now I'm going to be interested in the next ones that come about.
Right. And I think the big problem is that people consider superheroes a genre, mm-hmm. and they're not. They're the same thing as a police, a cop.
Yep.
There are tons of police movies out there, but it's not a genre. Police Academy and Training Day are both police movies, but they're sure the hell not the same thing.
Yeah.
You can't compare those two.
The one that I always bring up as a connection, because it was the one that had so long of a interest, was Westerns. It's like, yeah, it's a Western, but what's inside that are completely mm-hmm. different types of movies.
Yeah, that's a setting, mm-hmm. Or police or superhero, that's a job. Mm-hmm. It's like saying, well, it's a comic book movie. Really? Because Road to Perdition's a comic book movie.
Yep.
History of Violence is a comic book movie. Ghost World. Scott Pilgrim versus the World. All those are comic book movies. But they're sure the hell not the same as a superhero movie. And
I think that's honestly, and a little simplistically, that's become one of the issues between why Marvel Studios movies have worked and DC ones haven't, is they are constantly trying to make superhero movies. And from the beginning, MCU movies were always Captain America: First Avenger is a World War II movie.
It is
that has superheroes. Ant-Man is a heist movie that that has superheroes. Mm-hmm. And that's been the smartest thing they've done, is they've made it unique with each one, so you're not they're not focusing on just that hero aspect.
Yeah. It's like one of my favorite vampire movies of all time, and this is regardless of the fact that I know the people behind it, is 30 Days of Night.
Oof. Good movie. Dark, nasty little movie.
Right.
And a great comic series.
Yeah. But if you took the vampires out of it and just made it an invading force of any kind, it's still a good movie.
Yep.
The vampire thing is an add-on.
Yep.
It's an invasion movie.
Yeah.
It could have been a little town in France being overrun by the Germans.
Exactly.
And the plot would still work, and that's why it worked, because vampires aren't a genre, you know, and you can do that. And that's a smart filmmaker that does that, and that's what Marvel does. You know, the Shang-Chi was a combination of a straightforward martial arts movie and a wushu style movie.
Yep.
And it works beautifully. And we're getting so far away from What If at this point, but
I know.
Yeah, but it's better. It's a free-form conversation. We're going to talk about Shang-Chi anyway.
Exactly.
But, and I think what Marvel does better than anybody is they bring you along. You know, Shazam starts off is a good movie.
Yeah.
But bam, we're into the magic right away.
Yep.
Okay. There's no ramp up. With Shang-Chi, we get the little wushu opening, which when you watch it, it doesn't feel like a fight. It feels like a dance. It feels like a courting ritual between the two of them.
Exactly.
But then we get this very grounded beginning of this guy. He's working his job. He's gotten away from his father, all this stuff. And he's, you know, and he's parking cars. And then we get the first couple fight scenes are very grounded fight scenes. And it isn't until we get a little tiny hint of it with the Wong Abomination fight with the portals and a little bit with the Black Widow versus the Extremis soldier. Mm-hmm. But it isn't until until when Wu shows up and uses the rings that we go, okay, now we're moving into a wushu film. And then we start getting the mystical elements. We get a little bit of it. We get the floating water. We get Morris. Again, they're bringing us along slowly.
Yep.
And also they give you a lot of humor with Ben Kingsley.
And also I think that was also the need for Awkwafina, is she's the one that is able to do the audience commentary of, wait, you guys are all cool with the water that just appeared out of nowhere that made a map. You know, you need that character.
Yeah. Or her line about a guy with a machete just cut apart our bus. You know, and that's that's her role. She's the audience in this, which normally they don't, you know, it's the main character.
Yeah.
But in here it's really well done. But as we move along, and when she starts to have to be a little more serious, that's when they bring in Trevor.
Yep.
It's so well crafted that it brings the audience along. And I have not seen a movie do it that well. And it also is part of what I think is this transition that the Marvel Universe is going through. The MCU is going from a Tony Stark-centric world to a Stephen Strange-centric world.
In what way? Why specifically a Stephen Strange one?
Because they're bringing in a lot of the mystical elements, and he's kind of the center of that. Everything in the first one was technological based, and that was Tony Stark. And also, a lot of the villains were spinning out of Tony Stark. They were, you know, he caused the Vulture, he caused Mysterio. You know, a lot of the villains popping up were Ultron, were Tony Stark created.
Yeah.
The villains we're looking to start getting here, you know, the Dweller in Darkness, that's a Doctor Strange villain. Okay. That is one that came from the Doctor Strange mythos that was created, you know, it's pretty much a Lovecraft pastiche. We keep seeing this Shumagorath looking character popping up in What If, and that's who they're rumoring to have in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. So it seems like everything is going to stem out of, like I said, a Stephen Strange, and Benedict Cumberbatch being the center figure where Robert Downey Jr. was in the first round. I think it's brilliant. It's a good way to do it.
This is the time for that transition. because I haven't talked about it, I really like Shang-Chi. I thought it was very well done. I liked the fact that even as an intro of a brand new character, it didn't feel like it was going through the same motions that earlier MCU origin movies did.
Yeah.
And I think it is a great way to start Phase 4, where it's like everything we've had before is gone. We need to go move forward in this direction. And even with the post-credit sequences where you're just like, oh, here's this thing. We have no idea where this is coming from. And you're like, wait, what? So it's like, okay, here's the inherent mystery that will pull you through the next few movies to go, what's going on here?
Yeah. It's like, okay, we're going out here now, and we're going to still have our science guy and our cosmic person, because they had a representative of the cosmic corner, the mystical corner, and the science corner.
Yep.
And they brought him in like, you're kind of a new one. You may be a little here, you may be a little there. We're not really giving you that answer yet, because we don't know who they're calling.
Yep.
Now, of course, in the comics, the Mandarin is a much more scientific villain. The rings are alien.
Okay.
They're from the McLuhans, who are like Fing Fang Foom with the McLuhan.
Okay. All new to me.
Okay. So, and each ring has a different ability. Now, they've kind of taken all that away.
Yeah.
They're giving us Tao Lo, which is not from the Shang-Chi comics. Tao Lo was actually introduced in the Thor comics as a pocket dimension where the Asian gods all lived.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So they're doing a lot of changing, but they're taking a character like the Mandarin, who was always an Iron Man villain and a scientific villain, and they're making him a mystic villain and moving him over to being more of a Doctor Strange type villain.
And again, it's all building blocks. I think I would like to believe that while they were very focused on making an origin for this character, the blending in of we also need to begin the building blocks of not just Phase 4, but basically Part 2 of the MCU. Since we've kind of concluded Part 1, we need to go kind of start it, and we have to go with the presume no one knows anything.
Yeah.
And just build it from the ground up again.
Mm-hmm. It's like Kevin Feige's playing three-dimensional chess, while DC's over there trying to figure out how to play checkers with quarters.
This is true. I will be fascinated to see how the Flashpoint movie, or how that plays in. Mm-hmm. I would like to believe that somebody is finally figuring out we can't copy directly, but we need to figure out how to make our world and what works in our world. I mean, I'm a fan of Shazam. I was a fan of Aquaman. I think they did some great stuff with those movies and made it more interesting. Mm-hmm. I want to see them do well. As I've said for many years, I want to live in a world where we look forward to Marvel films and we look forward to DC films.
You know what Aquaman needed, though?
Oh, God. What?
A conjoined twin in the back of his head.
Well, doesn't every movie need that? That'll be revealed with Ocean Master and Patrick Wilson.
Yeah, I'm not sure why James Wan kept that for the next movie and didn't just use it there, man. So yeah, that's where I'm thinking on Shang-Chi, is that I think it's a transitional movie in a lot of ways.
I think you're right.
It's making that bridge from the science-based Infinity Saga to this more mystical thing. But the thing that kind of is confusing is that they've got so many different pieces going on right now.
Yeah.
We've got whatever's happening with the Eternals and the Celestials. So you've got that cosmic playground. You're going to have Guardians of the Galaxy and stuff like that going on. And Thor is now kind of cosmic, which I find interesting. Then you've got the mystical stuff with Doctor Strange and Scarlet Witch and Loki, and Spider-Man is now pulled into the mystical side because Tony Stark's dead. He needs a new mentor, so Stephen Strange. And then you've got this grounded corner where you have Contessa Val running around and putting together what looks like it's going to be a Dark Avengers team or a Thunderbolts team for somebody we don't know. And then just while we're doing all this, we're also going to create all the Young Avengers just in case we want to use them.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like that's a lot of balls in the air right now.
I always said I would love to have somebody who has been behind the scenes from the beginning with Marvel Studios and Feige to see really how far in advance they plan some of this stuff. Because the fact that if it would not surprise me, and maybe I'm giving too much credit, that the plans for how to end Phase 4 have already been set up based off of these next 3 movies.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not specifically counting Spider-Man. I'm basically saying Shang-Chi, Eternals, and Doctor Strange, Multitude of Multiverse.
Multiverse of Madness.
I think those 3 are the keystones they're going to set up to get to whatever they want to get to by the end of Phase 4. Because we are living in a world without Avengers, and I don't think they're going to set up Avengers in this phase.
No, I think the big team up movie is going to be the Fantastic Four. It is already slated to be part of this phase.
Yep.
And it's at the end of it. And Feige does like to end a phase with a big team-up movie.
Yep.
But I don't think we're going to have an Avengers team by then. And they're kind of going out of their way to remind us that the Avengers don't exist right now.
Exactly. I think again, it's a little bit of a sidebar, but it is one of those things that I will be fascinated in about 5 or 10 years to look back and wonder that because of the pandemic forcing Black Widow to be pushed off and all these other ones being pushed off, if that actually turned out to be a good thing for the Marvel Universe, because after Endgame, you have so many people who are focused on, oh my God, how they trimmed everything up. You needed that breathing room to the point where when they started doing the WandaVision, everyone kind of had that, I need my hit. It's been too long.
Yeah.
Which, and I think that this might actually have worked out in their favor, barring issues with Black Widow.
Yep. And I think it's interesting that the Disney Plus series have also been kind of all over the place with the areas. I mean, the WandaVision was definitely in the mystical side.
Yep.
And then Falcon and Winter Soldier was very grounded.
Yep.
And introduced us to Val, even though that was supposed to be Black Widow. And then you end up with the Loki, which is again mystical, but also a bit cosmic.
Yep.
Then we get to What If, which also is kind of dealing with all the different aspects. They're doing mystical with Doctor Strange. They're doing cosmic with T'Challa. Mm-hmm. And then we get to Hawkeye, which is, let's have a Christmas movie.
I'm going to take a step back. I think one of the interesting things What If also becomes, based off of how you just laid that out, What If becomes the primer for the people who aren't regular comic fans of, hey, look at all these alternate worlds and alternate things that could happen.
Yes.
It's getting the audience used to that concept so that if that becomes that if that becomes a bigger issue as we go in the next 6 months to a year, they're already primed for it.
Well, I don't think the multiverse is going to stick around.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's going to be a finite amount of time because, again, they've got so many plates, so many balls in the air.
Mm-hmm. And
hopefully none of them are Nicki Minaj's cousin's best friend. But my point is that they kind of need to finish something. So I think phase 1 will focus on will wrap up an aspect of it. And I think it's going to be the multiverse. Mm-hmm. Because I think that concept is too big and they kind of need to bring it back in. But it might work like Crisis on Infinite Earths, is that when it gets pulled back in, Marvel can make some changes. Mm-hmm. They could bring characters back from the dead that aren't currently in, or that are dead. They could bring characters back from the dead. They could introduce characters that weren't there before. They can make changes if they want to swap out actors and stuff, and all go, well, this is the fallout from merging everything back together.
I mean, honestly, it's the best way for them to get X-Men X-Men / mutants / Deadpool into the MCU.
Exactly. And I think that's how they're going to use it, but I don't think they should leave it out there as an ongoing thing. Because and maybe that's part of Kang, and maybe Kang is season 1 or is phase 4. And then phase 5 will move on, and it'll be either Galactus and the Celestials or something like that, or maybe it'll be the Dark Avengers, but we'll get a different overarching thing where, I mean, we're still going to move all these pieces along because that's the way Kevin works, or the Marvel MCU works. But I think we're going to, I think that's why they're also going to the Fantastic Four, because Kang, as much as he's been an Avenger villain, he's also been a Fantastic Four villain.
That's true.
I mean, his first appearance was as Rama Tut in Fantastic Four.
And of course, because the way they've had him set up, even if you get rid of that version of Kang, you still can other types and ways to play with that character. But I think you're right. Trying to button up the multiverse as much as they can sounds like a good first-term goal for them. To be able to use it to get what they want and be like, and the spigot's closed. And we've knocked off the wheel. You can't do anything with it.
I think Brian has found the tagline for our show. The only show where you'll get a Nicki Minaj and Bob Newhart reference in the same 90 minutes.
Which, by the way, this also leads us, as you were, I'm sorry, I killed off your intro which leads us into Hawkeye.
Yes, which leads us into Hawkeye, which, are you familiar with the Matt Fraction, David Aja run on the series? I
am not.
Okay. It's a good series. It's a good run.
I've heard good things off of it. I've heard that it's a kind of essential one of recent years.
I'm a little mixed on it because I've got a pet peeve when they bring in characters and they take the same name as existing characters. It's like, I don't want 5 Batmans at the same time or 5 Robins. I don't want 2 Green Arrows, even if it's Connor Hawke and Oliver Queen. Yeah. I don't want 3 Hawkeyes or 2 Hawkeyes. You know, if she's going to be Hawkeye, then let him go back to being Ronin, or let him stay Hawkeye and let her pick another name. You know, I'm not a fan of that, and I'm not a fan of derivative characters overall. And the Young Avengers are all very derivative characters. But so I never got into the Young Avengers. And I tried to read them. Alan Heinberg is a great writer, so I did read the arc, but I never really connected with it because, like I said, they were just derivative characters, you know? Even somebody as unique as Hulkling, they're trying to make it so much like the Hulkling, or the Hulk. And it's like, he's a Skrull Kree. Lean into that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
we did have several Lokis, but I would like them to have one when we're done. You know? And I know that DC does it all the time. There's Flash, there's Wally West Flash, there's Barry Allen Flash, there's Jay Garrick Flash, there's Bart Allen, and it's like, don't need all that.
No, I think what's funny is I wonder if that's the setup, because I don't necessarily know how much longer Jeremy Renner wants to hang around the MCU.
Yeah, that's possible.
You know,
everybody else is leaving.
Yeah, I mean, granted, he's one of the few left behind ones, but he's never. This is his big star gig. So if this is his beginning and end for him, you know, that works out.
Yeah, it's like Black Widow finally getting her movie, which should have been done a long time ago.
You're preaching to the choir. That movie should have been made and released between Civil War and Infinity War.
Yeah, it shouldn't have been a flashback movie. It should have been, you know, in time. But the thing with Hawkeye is, you know, I look at James Bond and the fact that No Time to Die is going to be Daniel Craig's last movie. And I have absolutely loved Daniel Craig as Bond. To me, it brought back a much more serious, much more brutal Bond. And I'm sad to see him go. I've really enjoyed these movies.
I can understand that and agree. I think as him playing it, I think you're absolutely right. Though I think going out on this one because you don't want to play out the Roger Moore run, where it's like he was 3 or 4 movies into the you are too old for this.
Yes. Yeah. Well, you look at Never Say Never Again, where Sean Connery came back, and he was 51 and playing a retired James Bond.
Yep.
And it came out a month before or a month after, was it Octopussy? And
yep.
Roger Moore is older than Sean Connery.
Yep.
I was like, oh my God.
Yeah. So I can understand with that the side issue with that. I'm like, I would have liked a little more continuity with the way the Bond movies went, because definitely felt like out of those 5 movies, that really could have been about a 3 to 4 movies if they had planned it a little better.
Possibly. But I don't know. I really enjoy them. I think Quantum of Solace is probably the weakest.
That movie makes no sense.
Yeah.
Makes no sense. And Spectre hurts. As an old school Bond fan that, watched it back in the 70s all the way through, they screwed up the character. How they played it out. I was so disappointed with that.
Yeah.
And you wasted Monica Bellucci. That's a crime. That's a war crime.
That's fair enough. But
again, I'm a Bond fan. I have nothing against those ones. I especially Casino Royale is still one of the top Bond films
absolutely
ever.
Yeah. If somebody says, "Hey, I want to watch a Bond film for the first time," my nephew's boyfriend wanted to get into Bond. He's like, "Where should I start?" I went Casino Royale. You could go back to the Sean Connery ones. They're great. Roger Moore. I am at a point now where Daniel Craig is probably my favorite Bond, just because I like the style of movies they made with him.
Yeah.
Sean Connery and then Pierce Brosnan, I really enjoyed those as well. Then Roger Moore, because that's who I first saw as Bond. Then Daniel Craig, Timothy Dalton, and then George Lazenby.
Timothy Dalton got screwed over. He got one more. He should have gotten one more movie to try and build his version of Bond, and he wasn't allowed.
Yeah, I agree.
And as far as the other characters, I think every actor who's done Bond has a good Bond movie that you can recommend.
Yes. What was Roger Moore's?
Spy Who Loved Me.
I was thinking
Spy Who
that.
Loved Me has hits all the perfect moments that you want in a Bond film. It's the women, it's the chases, it's the sets, it's the action. It's all hitting on all cylinders in that one.
It's definitely not Moonraker.
I have a warm little part in my heart for Moonraker and Space Marines, but
I saw Moonraker was my first Bond. I saw it in the theater with my folks at drive-in. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Yeah. Did you notice that that's the movie Black Widow's watching?
Yes, and quoting no less.
Quoting line for line. Oh, man. All right, so we were talking about Hawkeye.
Yeah, and Hawkeye, it's interesting. Again, I don't know much about that particular run. I'm fascinated to see that they seem to have leaned into Renner's humor and how they've set up that character prior to Infinity War Endgame.
Well, yeah, they were making him funny all the way back in the Avengers.
Give me the word, Coulson, because I'm starting to root for this guy.
Yeah. Or what happened to Pietro? I don't know. Suddenly he just got shot, So he had that breaking the fourth wall-ish thing where he would talk out loud.
Yeah, the guy who realizes I'm the human being next to gods and super soldiers.
Yeah,
and I'm glad that they're going into that, because it's good for Renner's good with that. He does a nice bit with that in the Mission Impossible movies he's been in.
Oh yeah,
and I think it looks like that Haley Steinfeld
Steinfeld
is a nice foil for him for that.
Yeah, she's definitely going to play the fangirl. But it's funny in the comics. She's the more serious one. Mm-hmm. And he's more the goofy one. And we're not getting that, and I'm glad, because that's the one thing about the Fraction I didn't like. I loved the story they wrote, but I didn't like the interpretation of Hawkeye.
Okay.
He was a little more goofy than, and more everybody having to kind of fix up after him. Where this feels more like, he's competent.
Yeah.
But they could not have given us more of a Die Hard feel in this trailer if they try. I mean,
if Shane Black didn't come back to direct the whole series.
Yeah. I mean, and it starts with the Andy Williams song, just immediately giving us that Christmas feel. Rogers the musical. Oh my God.
And the fact that when you get that, you're like, oh, that's cute. And then you realize you see footage from it and you're like, oh, okay, where are we going with this show?
There is an actor named Brian James D'Arcy.
Okay.
Who is listed as part of the series.
Mm-hmm.
He's a Broadway guy. He's a musical guy.
So who do you think he's playing?
I don't know. That's the point, is that no one's saying what he's playing, but we've got a freaking musical that looks like it's a takeoff of Hamilton.
Yeah.
Even the way the set's done up. And I want a song called I Can Do This All Day.
Oh, my God. And, just to add the full Disney synergy, I wonder if we get Lin-Manuel to come in and do some songs and have that as a special Easter egg, a mini musical that goes on to Disney Plus later after the series is done.
And if you can't get him, then get the people who are writing the songs for WandaVision.
Oh.
They won an Emmy for Agatha All Along. Do you think
they did? Oh, good. Yeah,
you think they're not going to try to come up with a song for Rogers the Musical?
It's too easy. It's too much gold not to leave on the table. You got to take that.
Yeah, the fact that we get a scene of them means we're going to get at least one song.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I want it to be I Can Do This All Day.
There's, yeah.
The only other song I could think of, but it would be like a Bucky Steve thing, would be End of the Line.
Okay. No, but I get that, but no, I can do this all day.
I can do this. I may have put a little more thought in this than I should have.
But no, and the thing is, I can now see it as starting off as just the one actor, almost with no light background, as it builds into the final one, where it's everyone behind him, singing along, cheering with a big orchestra swell.
Yep. I want that so bad now. And then I want them to go ahead and expand it into an actual musical.
If only Marvel Studios and Disney had a channel which they could have something like that.
I know, like a Christmas special. Rogers the Musical.
God.
You can see it happening, can't you?
It's synergy. That's all I'll just say. It's the whole Disney synergy thing.
They're going to do a Guardians of the Galaxy Christmas special. Rogers the Musical is not that far out there.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all. And especially because what's the other very popular piece that showed up on Disney Plus? Would that be Hamilton the musical?
Yeah.
Yes, that just happened to be. Okay.
Yeah.
So since you have better knowledge on it than I, and based off of that trailer, I have no idea what's going on with what the major plot line is going to be, or who the nemesis is. Because obviously they start off in setting you up with her taking the Ronin identity. So it seems like that could, in general, the Ronin identity and the ramifications of I don't know, what exactly was Ronin during that time? A serial killer? A mass murderer? How many people? A vigilante who went across the world and killed people.
Yes, he was like the intergalactic international Punisher, basically.
Now I want the cutscene of John Barenthal looking at the news thing going, nice job.
Yeah. Hey, that's pretty good. But, okay, I can give you what I think is going to be the plot based off of that run and what we've seen in the trailer.
Sure.
All right. So I got the spoiler thing on.
I know.
So, yeah. I'm telling the viewers that bail now if you don't want to hear this.
Oh,
but, okay. So I think combining what we saw in the trailer and the end credit scene from Black Widow.
Okay.
In the comics, there's a video of Hawkeye, like I said, shooting a dictator, killing a dictator. And S.H.I.E.L.D. basically faked it to look like Hawkeye did it to cover for them having killed the dictator.
Okay. That
tape came out and was being auctioned off by Madame Mask. And the people bidding on it were the Ten Rings, Hand, Madame Hydra, Kingpin, and all these other big people trying to get this proof that an Avenger committed murder. All right. So, taking that concept and what we've got, I think what happens is that there is footage of Hawkeye or of Clint in the Ronin costume with the mask off. Like when he takes the mask off in front of a Black Widow, either that scene or something like it. And they have it, and they're going to auction that off, and they found the original Ronin costume as well. I think there's an auction scene that gets the wall blown out. I think that's from what they're doing. So they're borrowing that from the comics.
Yep.
Madame Mask, I think, is going to be played by Vera. Let me pull up this real quick. IMDb.
Not very familiar.
Okay. There's an actress already in the show, and the rumor is, where is it? It's a Vera Farmiga.
Okay.
Yeah, she's listed as playing Eleanor Bishop, who is Kate Bishop's mom.
Yep.
In the comics, Kate Bishop's dad is connected to the crime organizations and stuff. And he's the one doing the auction. And Madame Mask is one of the bad guys that Kate continues with. This kind of becomes her bad guy.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking that Vera Farmiga is playing both her mom and Madame Mask. And she's the one doing the auction. Kate discovers what's going on, steals the costume from the auction, and in the comics, the reason she becomes a hero is because she is disgusted by her father being connected to the crime organization. So she's trying to bring that down. And I think that's how this gets started. So I think what happens is that she's running around using the Ronin costume to stop it, and that's how it gets Hawkeye's attention. But she tells him, well, there's also this footage. And that's why all these people are going after him, because it's leaking now that it was Hawkeye who did all this damage.
That sets up a nice redemption arc and him having to confront what happened in the series. That's a real strong storyline for him to work with.
Right. Plus, there's the possibility, besides Madame Mask, you can bring in Vincent D'Onofrio, which a lot of people have been. There's a lot of rumor about him popping up as Kingpin. The bad guys we see in there are known as the Tracksuit Mafia, the guys in the tracksuits.
Yep.
They're also called the Tracksuit Draculas, and I don't understand why. But Tracksuit Mafia are these Russians. Well, they work for Kingpin. So bringing Kingpin in would make a lot of sense.
In the series, did Kingpin have more than one appearance during it, or just a brief cameo thing?
He wasn't in a lot. He was in the auction part of it, and then he played a bigger part later. So this could be done with this a cameo.
Exactly, especially if you do it that no one says his name.
Yes, absolutely.
So you could we hired Vincent D'Onofrio. Is he the Kingpin? We never call him that.
Yeah,
but
yeah. Well, I think they're going to eventually bring some of those characters over. I think Kevin Feige said he really loved D'Onofrio, Cox, Ritter, and Bernthal. Mm-hmm. Didn't mention Coulter. Didn't mention Finn Jones.
That's a damn shame because that Luke Cage was really good. Mike Coulter was really good in that part.
Yeah. But those are the 4 names that he mentioned, and I could see them bringing all 4 of those characters in. Mm-hmm. And maybe not canonizing the Netflix series.
Yeah.
But bringing those characters in because we're familiar with them and we know that they're successful and they do a good job. So,
yeah.
But yeah, so that's what I see as kind of how I think the series is going to go. And it's going to be, and I mean, they're borrowing some scenes like the car chase with him going through the arrows.
Yep.
That's from the comics.
Okay.
And a lot of those other things are directly from the comics. So that would make a lot of sense to me, how they could take the setup from the comics and use it. Also, the dog, Lucky. Mm-hmm. Lucky the pizza dog is great. He's owned by Ivan of the Tracksuit Mafia. He gets hurt, and Ivan just leaves him, and Hawkeye takes him to a vet, gets him fixed up. That's why he's got a bad eye.
Okay.
But when they look at his collar to see what his name is, and the dog's name is Arrow. And Hawkeye's like, no, we can't have that. That's just too on point. So they named him Lucky. Mm-hmm. And he only ever seems to feed him pizza, so it's Lucky the pizza dog.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I heard a lot of people saying they were very happy that Lucky showed up. I'm like, okay.
Yep. And I think once the series ends and Kate goes her own way, Hawkeye stays on the east and Kate goes out to the west and is working with the West Coast Avengers, whatever they're called nowadays. Mm-hmm. She takes Lucky with her. So the dog continues on. The dog is like a regular character in the MCU. So.
So now here's the other element. Are we going to see Yelena Belova show up, which has supposedly been the setup? And is that a factor of the main storyline, or is that a kind of just when we have everything planned, we have this monkey wrench thrown in?
I think she's going to be a wild card and end up being a help. Because I think that she's not one to take just direct orders.
Yeah.
She wants to find things out for herself. And that's also that scene. The picture is of Hawkeye in the Ronin costume. Mm-hmm. So to me, that Val gets a hold of that image from the auction is my thought. And that's why she's sending him after Hawkeye. But so I think what's going to happen is Yelena's going to show up, but instead of just going in to kill, she's going to go in to talk to him because she saw how connected they were. Natasha was to Clint with the little Heidi space in Budapest.
Yep.
Stuff like that. So I think that, and then she'll eventually be backup for him in a big fight.
And I also think could be very interesting. Again, extrapolating without anything. If this is his swan song play as being Hawkeye, but keeping Hawkeye with Kate Bishop, what better way to bring in Black Widow than to bring in Yelena at that point? So you have Hawkeye and Black Widow together, and now it's an older sister, younger sister relationship, where she finally gets to be the older sister.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't believe this will be Renner's swan song.
Okay.
I think he'll probably stick around, just like Chris Hemsworth is. Mm-hmm. I don't think he'll do a lot of big stuff, but he's never done big stuff. Everybody leaving has done a bunch of movies.
Yeah.
Chris Evans has been in like 5, 6, 7 movies. Robert Downey Jr. has been in like 10, I think it is. I mean, just an insane number of movies. He's always had the smaller parts, and even then, he never did a lot. You know, in Avengers, he got mind controlled. He had the cameo in Thor. Sure, the role in Age of Ultron was bigger.
Yeah.
But, Civil War, it wasn't that big either. He showed up about halfway through. So he's never really had to do a lot. So he may want to stick around and do like a second Hawkeye series or something.
I can see what he's saying with that. I just thinking that I could see him passing on the mantle of Hawkeye.
Yeah.
But not leaving as Clint.
Yeah. Yeah.
For lack of anything else.
Right. And I think, the entire movie or the entire series is going to be about cleaning up the redemption arc, cleaning up his mess, and getting home to his family for Christmas, Yeah. So that's an interesting arc. I don't know why his wife wasn't with him in New York.
Yeah, could we not afford Linda Cardellini?
It could be that, or maybe the role would be so small.
I don't know.
Where they can get Joe Russo's daughter to come in, no problem. Because that is who's playing Clint's daughter is Joe Russo's daughter.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but so that could be the case, or maybe she just shows up at the end because it seems like she's the one on the phone he's talking to.
Could be.
Yeah. So maybe they just thought, well, because sometimes bringing an actor in is scheduling difficulties, Plus, during COVID, just having somebody run in for a day of shooting wasn't going to work.
That's
they had
true.
to have that quarantine period before they could get on set, and if they were in the middle of working on something else, then they'd have the quarantine period to go back.
That makes the most sense of why she might not be showing up, except in a smaller, modified role.
Yeah, it's why Kate Denning's role at the end of WandaVision was so small, because the COVID stuff had hit and they couldn't, get her on set for longer.
Yeah.
So, which is a shame because that's such a great character.
Yeah.
But it's hilarious to me that we're only in September, and WandaVision seems like so long ago now.
Absolutely.
And how much we were gaga over Randall Park and Kate Dennings and like, oh, we need a series with those two. And nobody's talking about that now.
Yeah. No. Like I said, it was that that feeling of where's our Marvel? I need my Marvel fix.
Yeah. We got that. We got Falcon and Winter Soldier. Then they gave us a little break. Like, oh my God, where was Loki? What's going on? And we're going to get that again. And I haven't figured out why they're doing it. By now, they should have something else. What If's going to end, and it's going to be like 6 weeks without anything new from Star Wars or we might get Star Wars Visions in there.
True, but I don't think that's going to be a long-term.
No, I think that's one. That's one.
Yeah.
And I think it may drop before Marvel's What If ends. I think it's September 22nd.
Then I think it is. I believe What If ends around mid-October.
Yeah, and then it's going to be late November before we get Hawkeye. So we'll probably get a behind-the-scenes of What If episode of Visions or whatever Visions, and then we'll get a Legends for Hawkeye going into the series. So we'll get a week, something at the end of the week. But there's still like a chunk of weeks, and there's no Marvel, there's no Star Wars, which just seems like by now they should have had it better figured. Yeah. Like they could have moved Book of Boba Fett up, or I don't know, they could have done something. It just seems bad timing. They could have held off on What If for another couple weeks because they still had the Bad Batch. Because at least it was something new.
Yeah.
I mean...
Yeah, there's nothing really crossing over or between the two at this point.
Yeah, I mean, what are we supposed to do? Go, oh, Turner and Hooch will get us through.
Free Black Widow on there free, maybe?
I got to admit, I've watched Black Widow Black Widow more times than most of the new Marvel movies. I usually watch it and then it comes out on Blu-ray, and I'll watch it again with the director's commentary, and then later on, I've watched Black Widow 3 times before it left Disney Plus on the first run. It's like, and I don't think it's that great of a movie.
Mm.
But as I watch it more, I enjoy it more.
Honestly, the revelation of that movie is Florence Pugh. I am so happy that this is the beginning of her run in the Marvel Universe, because she was so good.
I didn't particularly like her.
She's grown on me because her attitude is so weirdly sardonic and dark, and for lack of anything else, feels very Russian to me.
Yeah,
like, this would be a good death.
Yeah, this would be a horrible death. But for me, my favorite character in the whole thing is Red Guardian.
Well, it's David Harbour. How could you not love David Harbour? And they went, "Oh, we want to make you a superhero too." Well, okay.
I want a David Harbour series where we find out what Captain America he fought.
This is true. Because you're like, I don't think he'd lie about it. So he maybe exaggerated something, but what did he exaggerate?
But see, I could totally see Ross or somebody else making a temporary Captain America, or a failed experiment.
I wouldn't be surprised based off of the, if only even just with the experiments that got set up and we know what happened. Yeah. It obviously wasn't him that he fought, but it wouldn't be surprised if he had someone along the way.
Yep. And comic history, there were a bunch of Captain Americas in between him getting thawed. There was a bunch of people who stepped up to be Captain America. So, and we got one of the guys showed up in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Did they?
The character, the Patriot, who became the director of S.H.I.E.L.D., and he had
yes.
Yeah, that's supposed to be the Patriot, and he was one of the people in the comics that took on Captain America's role for a while, Jeffrey Mace.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that's pretty... I would love to see that. Plus, I'd love to see more of Red Guardian in the Marvel Universe. He's just such a fun character.
Yeah, everyone... That was the strongest thing about that movie, is those 4 actors I really loved, and I loved watching them, how as little as they did interact with each other. Yes. Rachel Weisz especially. I was like, okay, can I watch her version of her being a Black Widow, because she's awesome too.
Yeah, and I love the fact that the relationship between her and Red Guardian. Normally, they always put the older actor with the younger actress, and she's 6 years older than David Harbour.
Really?
Yep.
Okay.
She's 51 and he's 45.
Doesn't look 51. No,
does not at all. Then again,
married to Bond.
Yeah. Yeah. The one good side effect of Daniel Craig leaving James Bond is we get more Knives Out. I'll say there's a killer in the house.
Doing his best Foghorn Leghorn impression.
Yes. It's not a Foghorn Leghorn impression.
I know.
There's an actual historian. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but I was watching behind the scenes, and he tells the name of this Southern historian. So I went out and Googled the guy's name, and you should do this. Anybody who's watching this, Google where Daniel Craig got the accent from, and then look up this guy. And my God, it's perfect. Daniel Craig nails this guy's accent. Why he decided on this guy's accent may be the equivalent of Hercule Poirot's mustache, something really unique about him.
Yeah.
But he nails that accent so well.
Well, and especially worked in the first one, because you've got someone in a New England setting with that accent, and you're like, okay, they are very much not from here.
Yep.
And so that gives you the, well, why aren't they there? So suddenly, again, it's always the classic writer thing of like, it's the question that you're like, okay, you're being pulled in to wonder where this guy is, and also makes him a perfect outsider.
Yeah, and I think they're going to do that again with the next one. I hear it's supposed to be in the French Riviera.
I know they were just finished up shooting stuff in Greece, so as well. So and the cast is insane again.
Oh my God, yeah.
I think this is reaching that point where it's like when the next announcement goes out of Rian Johnson shooting another, Benoit Blanc movie, it's and every studio agency in the world's going, hi, we'd like a part.
Yes. Well, I mean, let's see. It was like, well, let me see if they got on IMDb, because it is an insane.
I believe Michael Shannon is one of them.
No, Michael Shannon was in the first one.
I failed.
Knives Out 2. Okay, Jessica Henwick from Iron Fist, who's also in the Matrix, the new Matrix movie.
Yep.
Dave Bautista, Ethan Hawke, Catherine Hahn, Kate Hudson, Ed Norton, Janelle Monáe, and Leslie Odom Jr.
As if I wasn't already throwing my money at Rian Johnson to see that movie.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Leslie Odom Jr. has already proven, besides being an incredible, actor and stuff like that, and musician for his playing in Hamilton as Aaron Burr, he was in Murder on the Orient Express.
Oh, you're right.
He was Abernath.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, he was the doctor. So, I mean, that's which was played by Sean Connery in the 70s version. Yes. Yeah. We would like you to play a part played by Sean Connery. Yes.
Of course.
Can I say things with a slur?
Can I be Scottish? No.
That would have been awesome. But there's some great movies coming out. We talked about Venom.
Yep.
I'm really looking forward to that.
I will say one thing. The first one, I will absolutely admit that I went in just as I think I've got an afternoon. I had no interest in seeing it. I've never been a fan of the character. The stuff I'd seen in the trailer was kind of like, yeah. It definitely won me over later into the film, because honestly, the repartee between Hardy and ostensibly himself really worked for me. That was the smartest part of that. As far as this one goes, I literally was saying I probably wasn't. I think we said it opens like on the 1st of October. And I was kind of like, I'll probably see it the week after or something. Now I'm like, crap, maybe I need to go see it early.
The only hesitation I had was the Sideshow Bob wig that they had given but it seems like that's gone. It is. So I'm looking forward to that. I am definitely looking forward to Dune, which had a huge box office in international, opened in 24 countries, and it was like number one in almost all of them. Pulled in 37 million when it was expected to do about 20.
All I'm hoping is that just makes sure that Warner Brothers hits that big green button for part 2.
They're saying they're already going to. They know that the numbers aren't going to be great because they're doing day and date. So they're not looking for that. They're looking more for fan reaction.
Okay.
So, yeah. And there's other movies that are having the same, like Suicide Squad, stuff like that. They're looking at it for fan reaction right now, because you can't look at the current box office and judge anything by it. Yeah. Yeah, except for Shang-Chi, which is just kicking ass.
Yep.
Yeah.
And apparently Free Guy is also doing really well.
It is.
For a non-licensed, that rare thing, a unique property.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and that was immediately greenlit for a number 2. Which I don't know if I'd want a number 2 of that, because it's such a good movie. It's a romantic comedy that nobody knew was a romantic comedy.
Exactly.
So, all right, we need to wrap this up here. But also, Bond comes out next month in October.
I already have my ticket.
Yeah, Eternals in November. Am I missing anything in the next couple of months? We got Spider-Man in December.
I know well, there's West Side Story, whatever.
Death on the Nile is not till February or March, which I was disappointed. I wanted it in December like the other ones.
That would have been nice off of that, but I think they're taking they're hedging their bets on the risk for that.
Yeah, they're trying to Army Hammer calm down thing.
Oh, that's true. Because apparently he's a very big part of that, isn't he?
Yes. They can't replace him.
Yeah.
Too many big stars. They can't go Kevin Spacey replacement.
I don't know about for you. I know you're not a horror fan, but I'm looking forward to Halloween Kills. I look at it this way. I did enjoy the first one that they did. I wish I did more, but I like what they did. The thing I appreciate is the fact that when they said we're doing a sequel, they said we're doing 2 of them. We're doing 2 and 3, and then we're done. We're done. And I'm like, okay, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt that you're taking this as we're doing a 3-story and we're clipping that.
Yeah. But the fact that they're now going to do a day and date on Peacock,
that's probably going to hurt it a bit. Yeah. But
all right.
But I also know a lot of people who are like they're pissed off that they didn't do that last year.
Yeah.
Because basically they're saying Halloween is not a film that you need to see in the theater. I disagree because it's a horror film and having an audience with it is kind of important.
Yeah. And yeah, I agree. I think a lot of these movies like that need to be in the theater. You know, you want to give me a little, the Eyes of Tammy Faye or Blue Bayou, both. You can put those on the small screen and watch them. Yeah. You know, you don't need a big screen for that.
Dune, you need a big screen for.
Yes, Dune, you need a big screen for. All right, we are now over. So let me wrap it up here. Thank you, Andrew, for filling in. Thank you, Brian, and everybody else for tuning in.
Thank you.
Please hit the like, subscribe buttons. If you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel, please do so. And I hope you guys all have a great week. Remember, the Dan Wickline Show on Tuesday is going to have an interview with Image co-founder Jim Valentino. That's a big one. So everybody have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week. Good night, everybody.